Coming up on episode 262 of Wheel Bearings, we've got the Lucid Air Grand Touring, Toyota GR86, the Chevy Bolt EUV, the Hyundai Tucson plug-in hybrid, Buick buying out some of its dealers, Toyota increasing its investment in EV batteries, and much more. All that coming up next. This is episode 262 of Wheel Bearings. I'm Sam Abu-Al-Samad from Guidehouse Insights.
I am Nicole Wakeland from the Fast Women podcast.
I am Roberto Baldwin from LifeWire.
Ooh. And Roberto, what have you been driving?
Oh, you were going to ask me first. I wasn't even ready.
He didn't ask me because I am ready. He generally only asks if his spidey sense says he's not ready. Ask him.
He's like, who is ready? It's
More fun that way.
You're like the teacher in school who's determined who hasn't done their homework.
Right.
Yeah,
He's
standing
not
across the
yeah.
room.
Yeah,
Who's not
across
making
the
eye
room.
contact?
You,
Yep.
Sam, in the back row. I know.
You haven't done your
It's you. So
due
therefore,
diligence.
answer question 5 on our homework. Duh.
Anyway, while we were talking, I opened up the file I need. Ha ha! I was driving the 2022 Bolt EUV Premier.
Ooh.
What does EUV actually stand for?
Everyone,
Electric utility vehicle.
Is it electric utility vehicle? Okay.
Yes.
Everyone unlikes Victor. It was the original title for Everyone Loves Ray, and it just didn't test well.
It just didn't work out. Yeah.
No, it didn't work out at all. Yeah, the EUV, I've been driving it for a few days. I haven't done the mileage run yet, so I don't have some details about. I'm actually doing that today after the podcast. But I can tell you that it drives nicer than the regular Bolt. I think one of my issues with the regular Bolt is that it's got a bit of a rough ride. When we were looking at EVs to purchase. When we were driving around in the Bolt, my wife asked, "Why is this vehicle? Why does this car handle rougher than our BRZ?" I was like, "Oh, well, there you go."
There's your review.
There's your review. Overall, I mean, I think, especially at the price points that these things are at right now, it's a pretty good deal. If you are fine with the DC fast charging, which is at 50 kilowatts, which was great when the Bolt came out way back in the day, because it was funny because the Bolt beat the Tesla Model 3 to market, and when they when they delivered the first Bolt, they delivered it to someone in Fremont, which is where Tesla's at.
Oh, that's fun.
Well,
It was
and,
sort
and
of
when they did
like a little stick in the eye.
Well, yeah. Well, when they did the media drive program for the Bolt in January 2017, I think. They did it in Palo Alto, starting from Palo Alto, like about a mile and a half from Tesla headquarters.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it's just a little old school automaker stick in the eye.
Yeah.
So it has the EPA says it has a range of 247 miles, which is adequate, which is fine, which is what people want. The 50 kilowatt charging, well, for me, like I'll go do some DC fast charging. I'm like 50 kilo. I was just like, it just seems so slow now compared to when this vehicle came out. And we were like, woo! And now I'm sitting at a 150 kilowatt, station, and I'm waiting for it to charge. And I'm like, oh, it's up to 52. Oh, we get a little extra. Get a little something.
On the other hand, though, the Bolt and the EUV. Have a relatively small battery because they're actually pretty energy efficient. So they only have a 65 kilowatt hour battery. So that's like half the size of the battery in the Lightning, in the F-150 Lightning, and a third less than most of the longer range EVs that are out there right now. So your actual time to charge, most of the time, is actually probably not going to be that bad. It's
usually
still
about
it's still gonna
45
be
minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not horrible. It's just that you're looking at it and you're like, oh my gosh.
It feels
But
like
again,
Yeah.
most people are charging at night. I live within stone's throw of like 5 charging stations, and we never ever charge our EV at any charging stations. It's been a long time. My wife did one road trip, which most people will do. She charged it then. we still have 200, like when you bought a Hyundai or you leased a Hyundai, you got 250 kilowatt hours of like free charging at Electrify America. I was looking at it. We still have 230 kilowatt hours
Oh, jeez.
of like available. Like I'm like, oh man, I should really look up and see when does this when does this expire. So if you might think you're doing a lot of charging, the reality is I think most people, if you have a house, if you live in an apartment building, this is a completely different scenario. If you live in a house and you charge at home, or you have charging at work, the 50 is probably not that big of a deal. If you live in an apartment, if you live near a place, where you do your grocery shopping, there's a Lucky's nearby. It has an Electrify America right next to it. It's in that parking lot. If you go there a few times a week, you're probably going to be fine. It's not really that big of a deal. It's really mostly for if you're someone who's like, I'm going to do, road trips over 200 miles in my EV on a regular basis. That's where it's really going to be a kind of a pain.
And to be honest, if you're doing that, you're probably not buying a Bolt EV anyway.
Yeah,
Truly.
yeah, that's the thing. You're not buying a Bolt EV.
I like the Bolt a lot, but
Yeah.
it's probably not the car I would want to drive on a cross country road trip.
Yeah, you're not getting that. Don't you shouldn't be concerned about it. That said, it does have the Bolt, the EUV, not the regular Bolt, but the EV does have the option for Super Cruise, and I have Super Cruise on this one, and I've been cruising around and going back and forth. I've had to go to Oakland and to the city a bunch this week. I had to go all the way down to Lake San Jose, and it's still solid, still the best hands-free system on the market of the two. That does have a bit more ping-ponging that I've experienced on other Super Cruise vehicles.
Really?
It's
weird.
just
'Cause I had one earlier this summer, and it was standing in the center of the lane, rock solid. It was.
We have
better
a
than
lot of
road
like
trips.
really windy freeways here, and there's a lot of
Oh.
construction working going on. It's even if you're not on like a back road, we still got like big curves for whatever reason.
So it
Big
could not handle
curves.
big curves.
We got to go around bay, water. We got to go around, mountains and whatnot, and things that were built in, during
You've
the
just
gold
made
rush
that
days.
area sound much more rugged. You got to go around water. There's mountains, all sorts of stuff.
We have a
in the
whole
way.
bay.
You've
It's,
just
like,
turned
right there.
You just turned it into like the most rugged landscape in the country. It's like San Francisco.
Yeah.
There's a lot of hills.
Have you seen New
walked-
Hampshire?
I have.
Have you
there
seen
are
rural
hills.
Michigan?
Yeah, right.
No, because I don't want my car to be swallowed up by a pothole. I have not seen rural
Good call.
Michigan. That said, overall, yeah, I like it. I mean, if you're looking for an EV that you could probably get right now, I would expect. I think
that's a challenge.
the fire, the battery fire thing, which again was LG Chem's fault, has probably turned a lot of people off of this vehicle. Which means it's likely that they might be in stock. You might actually be able to get one.
That's a good point.
Well, plus GM has just slashed the prices
Flat-
on these things. It's
It's
the
like the
only
only
EV that's actually had
EV.
the price go down.
Yeah.
Yeah, like the first like a year ago, the price went down on the Kona, and then recently the price went down on this. And these are all like these are not new EVs. These are EVs been around for a while. So if you're looking for an EV, but you also you're like, oh man, everything Mach-E's going, everything else the price is going up. If you're looking for an EV, you're like, yeah, maybe I need to save some money, and for whatever reason you need the bigger version of the Bolt. God, that's annoying, that Volt thing.
Yes.
Of the Bolt, maybe. The version I was driving, standard cost is $37,500. And it had how much is Super Cruise? Super Cruise is $2,200. So
Now that 37,000.
That's also
I think that's the 2022 model year price.
yeah, so it's cheaper.
Yeah. So for 23, they lowered the price by like $6,000.
So let's look at
So
the
the
Bolt.
the Bolt EV, the 1LT Bolt EV starts at $26,595, including delivery, and it's like $29,800 for the 2LT model, and I think for the EUV it's about $1,500 or $2,000 more than that.
So the EUV starts at $27,200, which is
Okay.
woo. Let's look up the Premier price.
Is that what you
Again,
had? The mirror?
I had the Premier.
The
It
Premier.
was like I was at a movie opening.
32.7 for the Premier.
32.7, so less.
Yeah. And
which is like it's almost $5,000 less, which means that the total price with all the bells and whistles, which is 43 for the 2023, would be like 37.
Right. And once they announced the price reduction for the 23
sorry.
models, they started offering a discount, a rebate on the 22s that were still available. So basically, you could, if you find a 22 model year car on a dealer's lot, you can basically get it for the same price as the 23 model year car. So it's because nothing's changed. I think they might have changed a couple of colors, but everything else is the same. So you can get it for that lower price. So you're looking, 37,000 for the one with the Super Cruise on it.
So it's pretty much a bargain.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a pretty sweet deal. My only issue with the Bolt is that it doesn't show battery percentage, state of charge. It just shows. I looked everywhere. I think you have to go deep dive into something.
I think you can find it in the menu, in the center menu.
Yeah, you have to go looking for it because when I had to do the Bolt range drive, I was sitting in my driveway for about 15 minutes trying to figure out how to turn it on in the dash cluster. And it just gives you like how far and a bunch of little a bunch of little bars, which are slightly arbitrary.
What they do is they show you a window of range, and depending on how you drive in real time as you're driving it, it'll adjust that window. So if you drive efficiently, it'll shift it upwards, and if you're doing jackrabbit starts all the time, it'll start to shift downwards.
It also doesn't tell you how fast you're charging.
Oh, jeez.
Well, I mean,
So
when you're not charging that fast, it's not something
I know.
you want to.
So I'm sitting in the car, and the charger I have is pointed the other direction because it's one of those pull-in chargers. It's at an angle. It says in front. It's almost like a pull-through charger, but not quite. But they've set it up so it's easier to plug in to the vehicles, and so it's pointed away, so I can't see the display. And I'm looking in the car, and I'm like, well, what's the charge rate? Should I be angry right now? Do I need to get on Twitter and be angry? Because, if you have a low charge rate, that's the law. You have to get on Twitter and be like, I'm only charging at 7 kilowatts.
Right. If you don't tell anybody, it's like it's not even happening.
Doesn't matter.
If you're on Twitter and you're charging an EV, shouldn't being angry just be your default position anyway?
Yeah, that's the default position.
But
so I had to open the app and look at the app for the charging station. And so that's how I found out it was charging like at 52. I'm like, ooh, fancy. I will say that one of the charging stations I went to, 2 people just pulled up in their ICE car and just parked there.
No.
And there was
Did you get out and give them
Really?
hell?
They did it after I walked away, and I came back, and there were just 2 cars sitting there. There were 4 charging stations. There was a red Bolt EUV. There was me in this like light blue one that I'm driving, and then there's just 2 other cars. And then there was a guy driving around in an e-Golf, and you could hear him in the car.
Trying
He's
to
like,
find a place to charge.
he's like, those cars aren't even EVs. I could hear him saying that, and I was like, you know what, I can leave. And so while they came around a second time, I pulled up, and I'm like, I don't know, figure out how to get them towed. So that's why I tweeted, if you're under contract from a city or a county, and you get money every time you tow a car that's illegally parked, hang out at charging stations, make some money.
Yeah.
Because there were 2 cars, and those,
Can they technically tow you from those though? Like,
yeah,
is it just,
it's technically, you
Really?
can tow, you can say there's like a little thing you can tow. This is where you can call to get your car that's been towed.
I've never looked for that. I mean,
Yeah.
I've been to them, just never noticed that. I don't think there's enough people charging here to ever use all our charging stations, so it's never been an issue.
So
Yet.
One guy did
yet.
pull up in a Prius, and I was like, "What the fuck's going on? Oh shit, what's
The
going on
Prime?
here?" And he ran in, and then he ran back out. He was just like a DoorDash guy, and I was like, "Fine,
It's
whatever."
still sketchy. I mean, would you do that if it was a
still pretty-
handicapped spot? What if the handicapped person was running it right in
Probably.
those 2 minutes? You probably would. He's that guy.
Yeah, they're yeah. People are horrible. That said, Bolt EUV, not horrible. Super Cruise,
too horrible.
a little bit of ping ponging. Still, if I used it 70-80% of the drive down to San Jose. Interchanges, it's like, hey, I'm turning off, and it's like lights are flashing, and it's telling you. And it turns down the music, like everything to tell
wow.
you. Yeah, it turns down the music now when you're listening to music to tell you when things are about to turn off. So they want to make sure you know what's going on. So
There's
good
no
on
doubt that
them.
you are well informed about the status of your vehicle.
No mode confusion allowed.
Correct.
No mode confusion allowed. Yeah. So, Bolt EUV.
Excellent. Miss Wakeland,
Yes.
where you been driving?
I was driving the 2022 Tucson Limited PHEV all-wheel drive. That is a long title. Like I read, and I'm just going to read whatever the Monroney says from now on, so we can all see how ridiculous some of these actual names are for these vehicles. Okay, so plug-in hybrid Tucson. I like the Tucson. I like it in all its guises. I don't have a problem with it. I think they're all really good. I'm a plug-in hybrid fan. I think it's a great little happy medium between. You know, you're not quite ready to go with an electric entirely, but you kind of want to start exploring the idea of it. I love plug-in hybrids. So this one gets 33 miles of all-electric range, which I think is pretty good, I would say, when you look at the, it's not, ours gets like 20-something, our Wrangler, because it's heavy and not as efficient. So I feel like 33 is pretty good. Starting price on this is $35,400. Mine had apparently a million extras. Although I'm getting, I don't know. See, it's weird. On the website, it's $35,400, but when I'm looking at the Monroney in my hand, it says the starting price is $43,200. So go figure that out. So you know what? I don't know how much, which doesn't make sense because it says everything is included. So I don't know.
Well, it was at 35 starting price for the limited, or
I think it's a limit. I must be going up a trim. That's it. That's what it is. Thank you, Sam. I'm like, why is this not matching the limited? It's because the name's so long. So 44,640 is what mine was. Are you going to take a guess? Shipping, freight, handling, all that stuff. What's the
$1,500.
12.
Oh, Robbie wins again. He always goes under. 1245.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That was pretty close. You were spot on. Look at you. So here's the thing. So I was looking at the pricing. So that's right. The base pricing on the PHEV, the base trim, is $35,400. If you just go with the hybrid, it's $29,700. If you go with the gas, it's $25,800. So all three of these are great, and it's cool that you can get this in every single powertrain you could possibly want, except a pure electric. But look at the price difference. I mean, $25,800 for the gas, $35,400. That's a significant increase to get the benefit of that plug-in powertrain. You know,
you got to put you got to put a battery and a little motor.
I know. Well, no, I'm not that it's not like
badge. The badge is what really.
The badge alone is $8,000, right?
Well, and especially when you have the limited and all-wheel drive. You're adding a lot of extra badges.
You're adding a lot of extra badging. But I was thinking about that just in terms of the affordability of these things. Like if you're looking for an efficient car and you want to be you're talking $10,000 between the base gas engine and the base plug-in hybrid. Like that is way beyond. Like if your budget is tight, you just blew your budget to get this one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's hard to get into some of these. Like even if you wanted to, like, oh, honey, do we have an extra $10,000 in our budget to get the plug-in hybrid? And it's not
a whole used car.
Right? And it's not a knock against Hyundai by any means. It's just like the nature of the pricing. It's like, holy cow, it really is hard to get into some of those more efficient, less polluting, going electric powertrains because the price, I mean, that's prohibitive, man. $10,000 can,
Well, and this is Toyota's argument for putting so much emphasis on hybrids.
Yeah.
Because they can do the hybrids relatively inexpensively now.
Yeah.
And when you step up to a plug-in, and then to a battery electric, the price goes up in very big chunks.
Huge increments. Yeah, if you just want to go from gas to hybrid, not the plug-in, just a straight up hybrid, it is $4,000. So $4,000, which is, I mean, then it's another $6,000. If you want to get that plug-in, it's a jump to get into the hybrid, but like a more manageable one. But to get into the plug-in, that's a huge jump. So just little thoughts on getting into those vehicles. It can be sort of a challenge. I do like this, though. I like the styling on the Tucson. On the outside, it's got this very angular sheet metal on the doors, like on the side, and it makes it look a little different instead of being all these like round, curvy, swoopy. It has a little character to it, so I do like that. Inside, I mean, like this is a limited, so it's the fancier one. It's very comfortable. It looks good. It looks like a more premium thing. And you do get a lot of extra features. Like you get leather seating surfaces. You get heated rear seats are standard. New England girls like, yeah, heated rear seats. Like that's really cool. You get ventilated front seats. Who cares about that unless you're in Texas? Hey, Texas, ventilated front seats. You get a 10.25-inch touchscreen for navigation, which is really, really nice. Here's the weird thing between the trim levels on this, which I feel like needs calling out because I do not understand this when it comes to the tech. You get Apple CarPlay and Android Auto in both. If you get the Limited, the fancy trim, you got to plug it in. You need a cable. If you get the trim down, it's wireless.
I've encountered this in some other Hyundai, and I was just like, "What's happening?"
Strange.
Because my Kona, which was like way below this vehicle, like in just sort of like trim, not counting the fact that it's an EV, like has wireless CarPlay. But this other vehicle is more expensive. I had to plug it in. I'm like, what is going on? Why is this happening?
It's the backwards. I mean, the screen gets larger. You get other stuff. You get a stereo upgrade to a Bose audio system. You get like all the, and it's like, wait, but no, we're taking away the wireless capability. Go find your USB cord, which I just find a weird thing. It's perplexing to me why this does this. But it's a great car overall. It rides really smoothly. You get that EV, that electric range, which is nice. It has a decent amount of power. It feels pretty aggressive. It's a 1.6 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, so you get 261 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. It goes. It's not like an aggressive engine, but it's perfectly fine. You'll have no problems with it. And they're standard all-wheel drive, which is kind of nice. So you have that for those of us who live in cold places. And you can even tow with it. You can tow up to 2,000 pounds if you get it properly equipped. I think you need special brakes. And it has a good cargo room. Like behind the second row, there's 31.9 cubic feet. That's a decent amount of cargo room. You flip the seats down, it's 66.3. I had to get rid of a big screen TV because it died, and it just slid right in there. And I was like, I was doing the debate, like, is this going to be quite long enough? Yeah, there's no problem. So, and then today I used it to go get fall mums and some decorative things for outside my house because fall is here because it's September.
Oh, I thought you were like moms, like fall moms. Like you had to go find some moms who are like really in the fall.
Moms. No,
they're wearing earth tones and drinking pumpkin spice
I have
lattes.
the same mom all the time, and I don't generally put her in the cargo area of my car. No, this is for
but you
moms,
could put 4 of them.
I could put 4 of her in there if I wanted to, or 4 small plants, people. Plants, not humans.
Although you probably could fit 4 small humans in there.
Yeah.
You know what, Sam? I'll let you do that test and talk about it. I
don't have small humans anymore. I'm an empty nester.
Yeah, I don't have small humans either. Mine are also grown and flown, but they're in college.
Maybe my neighbor would let me borrow hers.
Okay, so next time we go
your
and see how many
child?
children you can, and in the meantime,
Hey,
if
can I
anybody
borrow
would,
Blythe for a couple of minutes?
yeah, anybody would like
3
to
children,
contribute
3 other
bail
children.
money, just email us, and then when he gets arrested for putting kids in the back of his car, we'll have something to bail him out. So,
No.
So-
Pretend it's the 80s. It's
the
fine.
80s, woo! So so I'm a fan. I mean, I like the Tucson in any guise. I like it. I think it's a good car. I think it's a good value. Even though, like I said, you're paying a premium for the plug-in hybrid, it's if you can afford the premium, it's a great way to get yourself kind of used to the idea of plugging in, charging, and make that feel like a regular part of your day instead of something weird having to plug in a car. So I think it's a nice happy medium, and you do get a little. I mean, 33 miles of all electric range. Driving around town, you're almost never going to need to use gas. You figure your typical day. So the 2022 Tucson Limited plug-in hybrid all-wheel drive. There you go. That's what I think.
Bada bing.
Bada bing.
Excellent. And I had a really fantastic car. Actually drove 2 really fantastic cars.
Oh, you had 2 of my favorite cars, really.
One of which is actually attainable, and the other is not. At least for me, anyway.
For everybody, for all but 2 people listening.
The first was the Toyota GR86. So this is the second generation of the Toyota Subaru jointly developed sports car, and this car is so good.
Fantastic.
Yeah, the new
It
engine,
is.
Slightly larger displacement, slightly more power. Still doesn't have an overwhelming amount of power, and it's a great sports car to just drive. With 228 horsepower from the 2.4 cylinder engine now, and they got rid of the torque hole that was in there in the previous generation model, so you don't, as you're accelerating, you don't suddenly get a dip and then comes back on again. I had the Premium, the GR86 Premium, with the 6-speed manual transmission, which is really the only way you should buy this is with a 6-speed manual.
I like that. The only way, otherwise, just don't.
Yeah, did they even
I mean,
give it off as an automatic? They shouldn't.
Yeah, they do, but you shouldn't buy that one. Just buy the manual. And if you don't know how to drive a manual, learn and then go buy one of these.
Oh yeah.
It's a fantastic little car. I would, if I were in Toyota product planning or Subaru product planning, I would ditch the rear seat because it's completely useless.
I've put someone in the back of my BRZ once, like a human. He was like had to sit like all weird. He's short, but he still had to like sit all weird and crooked. And I've tucked my dog back there, and both times no one was having a good time.
I'm not as tall as you, Robbie. I'm only 5'11", and with the seat in the right position for me, and my proportions, I'm long in the torso. My legs are not exceptionally long, and when I looked back there was about an inch between the back of the front seat and the back seat. It's like, why?
Who's gonna sit back there?
Unless you are riding along with Jill Ciminillo driving, and Jill, we all love Jill, but she's like what, 4'11", I think.
Yeah, she's not even 5 feet. She's a tiny little thing, big in personality.
Oh, absolutely,
tiny in
she
stature.
more than makes up for it.
Yes, she does.
But and if she's got the seat all the way forward, then you might be able to get a modestly sized human in the back seat. Otherwise, it's completely useless. But besides that, the only other complaint I have is I wish they would offer this as a convertible. But I think the looks of the new car are fantastic. It drives great. It's a sports car, so it's not a plush ride, but it is more than comfortable enough to deal with Michigan roads. And it's funny when it was delivered and I went to take some photos of it while it was still clean. I'm looking at the tires and clearly, probably the guys from Car and Driver had this one previously and been
so
doing
there were no tires left at all. It was just a thin.
There was some tread,
thin
but
skim
the
coat of
shoulders
rubber.
were pretty shredded.
Yeah.
But this thing is just a hoot to drive. It's got just enough power, to really have fun with it on the road. There's an 8-inch touchscreen display for the radio. It's got Android Auto and CarPlay support. Not wireless; it's wired. But such is the way. And the one I had was in what they call track. I'm not sure if this is supposed to be pronounced track bread or track B red, because it's lowercase b and then R-E-D in uppercase.
Oh God!
So clearly it's the same people that came up with the BZ4X naming.
I bet it's track bread. They're saying bread because they're trying to be fancy because it's red.
Could
But
be.
it's also
Bread.
made for the track, but a bump.
Yeah. This thing was a hoot to drive. The BRZ starts at for 23. I think it's 27.5. I think, or something like that. And the 22 model I was driving it's 27.9 for 2023 model year. So it went up by 200. The one I had starts at 27.7. The premium starts at 30,300. And for that you get more powerful audio system, an upgrade from 17 to 18-inch wheels, Michelin Pilot Sport tires in place of the Primacy all-season tires on the base model. But overall, it's a fantastic car. And if you are looking for a relatively affordable sports car, and you don't fit in a Miata, or you don't want a convertible, this is the other best option. So it's either this or Miata if you're looking for an affordable sports car. And I think they're both fantastic, and I really like the new GR86. And also on the premium you get that ducktail spoiler on the trunk lid, which I think does look a little bit silly, a little bit much, but I can live with it. I think
it's kind of
cool
fun.
to drive.
It's like, no, you don't need that, but it's kind of fun.
Yeah. And I'm sure, on the track it would give you a little bit of extra, if not downforce, at least less lift on the back end. So that's a good thing.
Someone asked me, I don't know, like a few weeks ago, what's the most fun I've had in a car in the past year, and without hesitation, GR86. On the Angeles Crest Highway.
It's really fun.
It's just so much fun. And this is, I've driven a lot of cars. And some of them you're like, well, this car's worth $100 and something thousand. You must have had more fun in this. No, I didn't.
Isn't that like one of the funniest things? And when people ask you about like your favorite car or the best car to drive, and then you make them qualify it like best car, like crazy expensive or what kind. Very often it's not the most expensive car in the segment. You're like, nope, that top car, yeah, it's got fancy this, fancy that, but you know what was better? This other one. It's $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 less. Like, it
Yeah,
doesn't
that's-
have to be the most expensive car in its class to be the best or the most fun to drive.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, all in with delivery, the GR86 came to $32,432. So
Don't
that's
don't
the
forget the $15,000 markups that they're charging though for it.
well, there is that.
God.
If you luck out, you might be able to find one, at or near sticker. And unfortunately, that's a rare instance these days. So that's the GR86. Hey, Wheel Bearings listeners, it's Sam. And as I'm recording this, we're getting ready to head out tomorrow for a vacation trip in Hawaii. And one of the great things about going to Hawaii is all the fresh fish and the Asian-inspired food. We just love it there. We love eating the food there. And when we get back, we still love to eat that same kind of food, food of the Pacific Islands. And this May, HelloFresh is helping by celebrating Asian American and Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So for a limited time only, you can get some of that same kind of food with limited time authentic recipes created in partnership with chef Serbi Sani of New York's Tagmo restaurant, who's creating a special cultural taste tour right in your own kitchen. After May is over, as we get into the summer months, you're probably going to be having friends over for parties and everything. So if you're hosting a get-together, check out HelloFresh Market for crowd-pleasing appetizers, snacks, sides, and more for your next gathering. It'll save you a lot of time and a lot of hassle putting everything together as you get your friends together in the backyard. The best part, you can skip that extra trip to the grocery store. All you have to do is go to hellofresh.com/wheelbearings16, that's wheelbearings16, and use the coupon code Wheelbearings16 for 16 free meals plus free shipping. Remember, go to hellofresh.com/wheelbearings16 and use the coupon code Wheelbearings16, that's Wheelbearings16 for 16 free meals with free shipping. HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit. So if you haven't tried it yet, now's the perfect opportunity to get 16 free meals. The other car that I drove, there was actually something else that I drove that we can't talk about till next week. But while I was in California driving that other thing, I had to get from LAX to Santa Barbara, and Lucid loaned me a Air Grand Touring in Zenith Red. I had previously had a brief opportunity to drive the Lucid Air Dream Edition, the launch edition, of which they only built 520 back in March when I was in Austin for South by Southwest. I had about an hour with it then. This time I had 3 days with it, and this is such a fantastic car. It's gorgeous, it's roomy, it's fast. Almost everything about it, not quite everything, but almost everything about it is fantastic. It is expensive. The Grand Touring is priced at $154,000, so it is not inexpensive. But unlike some other vehicles, it feels very premium in there. The Tesla Model S, even with its upgrades, does not feel particularly premium. It doesn't really feel like a $100,000 car, luxury sedan. This thing feels like a $100,000 plus luxury sedan. The materials, you have your choice of either, animal leather or vegan leather, beautiful fabrics and metal trim inside, and wood, open pore wood trim. Really, really nicely executed. Feels very solid. No squeaks and rattles, even over some rougher pavement. It was great to drive. On the way up to LAX, or up to Santa Barbara, I took a little detour up through the canyons above Malibu, drove up Latigo Canyon Road and some of the other roads up there in Mulholland. And even though this is a 5,000 pound luxury sedan, it feels surprisingly nimble. In part because the packaging, it's not as, given the amount of room it has on the inside, it doesn't feel huge on the outside. It's got a relatively compact footprint, but it's really well packaged. And the trunk, um, in the trunk, I put in. You can put in a standard carry-on bag on its side, like you would in some newer aircraft. So you can fit 4 carry-ons in the trunk across, and also have a little extra space for some odds and ends. Plus, you can also fit another one in the front trunk, along with some extra space for odds and ends. One, I think from a design or usability standpoint, one of the only complaints I have about this is that center screen. So in the infotainment system, you've got the large display that goes across the top of the dashboard. There's actually 3 displays within the housing. So there's the instrument cluster, the infotainment, and then controls for headlights and wipers on the left. And then there's another display that slots into the dashboard, and when you press the button or tap the button on the screen, it slides out and angles down to make kind of a console, and there's a storage bin underneath there. Had some software issues, which is not unusual on many new cars. We had software issues on the Cadillac Lyriq, and there's a lot of newer vehicles are having software issues early on. I was talking with the guys from Lucid the other day. They've actually got a major new OTA update going out this week, actually, that should hopefully address a lot of those things. One of the issues I had was relatively long boot up time when you first get in the car for the whole system to be up and running. They said they've cut the boot up time by about 80%, which should make a huge difference. Hopefully, it also addresses some stability issues. And one issue I had on one day, heading out from the hotel, I used the voice recognition to put in a destination and navigation, and it said, here are the directions to Presqu'île Winery, and then that was it. It just locked up solid. The top screen was blank in the center. The lower screen still had the map on it, but nothing was respond. It was completely locked solid. I went ahead, I pulled up the directions on my phone and just turned on the voice prompts and stuck it in the cup holder, and drove for a while, just to see if it would reset itself, if it would time out and reset itself. It never did. After about 15 or 20 minutes, I pulled over, looked up directions for how to reboot Lucid Air, and found it. And it's actually pretty straightforward. It's more straightforward than it sounds. If the system locks up or doesn't respond, all you got to do is just turn on one of the turn signals, and then step out of the car, lock the door with the key card, and step out of range of the key fob and the key card, so about 20, 25 feet away, and just wait until the turn signal stops. And that's your indicator that, hey, the system has turned off and is restarting itself. And then you can get back in, and it was good to go. But having that screen down below with the navigation stuff down there and some of the media stuff down there, it's kind of down kind of low, and you're looking down away from the road to use that, which I thought was not great. But the other thing is, if whatever you're using, whether you're using navigation or media stuff, it's showing you basically the same thing. It's showing you navigation stuff on the top screen and on the lower screen, or media stuff on the top screen and the lower screen. It's showing you different stuff. So you have some extra controls on the lower screen. But what I'd like is to have, say, navigation up top and media stuff down below, or vice versa. Be able to switch them around. And I think that's something that's coming in future software updates. And it's a relatively minor complaint. But overall, I loved driving this car. 819 horsepower in the one I had, with the 21-inch wheels. I think it's rated at about 420 miles of range. I was driving at a relatively brisk pace, and got a little less than 400, or I was on pace for a little less than 400. No, it was fantastic. I loved it. And if I had 150 grand to spend on a car, I would seriously consider it.
It's beautiful. I love the Lucid. I think it's great. I drove that Dream Edition like you did a while back and had nothing but good things to say with it. I didn't drive it for a terribly long time. It was a very short drive that I got in it, so I didn't have any glitchy stuff. But it was fantastic, and I still can't get over this. I'm a style person. It is such a neat and interesting way to do a luxury car. It's very simple and very clean and very streamlined, but it feels every bit like it's a car that costs $150,000. It's just gorgeous. I love it.
Especially when you get the combination of kind of the aluminum roof and then the lower body in a different color, that contrast, it looks really good. Oh, I guess one other thing I should highlight about the interior, the controls, I think they've done a good balance of physical controls and touch controls. And the things you're likely to use most often: temperature, fan speed, volume. They're physical controls for that. So there's a row of rockers along the middle of the dash, so below the upper screen and above the lower screen. So you can just tap that up or down to raise or lower the temperature or the fan speed. A roller for the volume control. You've got regular turn signals and shifter on the steering column. So I think they've found a decent balance there, without that gives you enough physical controls without cluttering up the interior.
Mm-hmm. I'd agree.
All right, let's see. Next up, let's stay with EVs. There's a bunch of electric related news this week.
EV news.
Actually, let me start with this one. Before we started recording, I was telling Nicole we had a major storm that swung through here last Monday, and our power went out for about 24 hours. And when I called into the utility to let them know, to report the outage, I was having a lot of trouble getting through. The phone system was apparently getting overloaded. Their website was getting overloaded. Finally managed to report the outage, trying to get a status update estimate of when it might be back. They weren't even offering status updates until as late as 18 hours later. I still couldn't get. Still said we can't give you an estimate yet. So it looked like power was going to be out for a while. Fortunately, we have a generator, a portable generator that I bought 19 years ago, when we had the big East Coast blackout. I had that generator, so I pulled that out, fired it up to at least keep the refrigerators and some lights and a few other things powered. And the next morning, I got a call from somebody at Ford saying, "Hey, your power's out. Would you like us to send over a Lightning to use
No
as
way.
a generator?" And at
that's
first,
so
I was
cool.
going to say no, because I had a gas generator that was running. But then I realized, but a bunch of my neighbors don't have generators.
Right.
So I said, if you want to send it over, then I can loan my generator to one of the neighbors and give them power. So they brought over a Lightning that afternoon. They got to our place about 5:00. I got everything plugged in, transferred over from my generator, and I was about to roll my gas generator over to the neighbor's house, and then the power comes back.
Of course it did.
Womp.
Of course.
But it did work really well. I just ran a couple of extension cords from the truck, plugged it into the truck, ran them in through the garage door, powered the upstairs refrigerator and the other refrigerator downstairs, hooked up some lights, had laptops charging, a few other things, and it was pulling all that, and it was pulling less than 400 watts from the truck. So it could have gone
Wow.
on for
A long while.
at least a couple of weeks, at that rate. Thank you to Ford for offering. If our power had stayed out for a few more days, as it did in many parts of the region, fortunately, the problem in our neighborhood here was a relatively minor one, and they were able to fix it quickly, relatively quickly. But if you've got a Lightning or a hybrid F-150, with the Pro Power on board, you'll be all set the next time your power goes out.
Did you see the link I just popped into the show notes about the Rivian?
Oh yes. Yeah.
I felt like this was relevant to mention right now.
Yeah.
So
Go ahead and talk
I
about
thought
that
this story, so talking about using your EV to do other things, this headline is, "This doctor used his Rivian R1T to complete a vasectomy." Not even a joke. He literally they ran out of power, and this doctor used it to power the clinic to do this patient's vasectomy. And it was like, he didn't want to have to
As you
reschedule
do.
it. Yeah, he's like,
Yeah, I mean that's not the kind of job you want to leave half done.
right? Well, I don't think
Yeah.
it was he said power in the clinic went out. This is the quote from the story. Power in the clinic went out. Patient didn't want to reschedule because he already had time off. The electrocautery was normal. The procedure went great. And he literally has a picture of his Rivian parked out front. You can see the cord just kind of going inside through the door of the clinic, and which I thought was hilarious. I'm like, I thought this was a joke at first, but I'm like, no, I've seen it everywhere, and this is over on Motor One. They have it up there as a story, and I'm like, wow. I want Ford to demonstrate that. Here, we got some other ideas for you, people.
Got some other things. Well, I mean, I think every once in a while I get like, well, because we're like in California, it's really hot. There's a heat wave, so they have flex, and they're asking us not to turn on the air conditioning between like 1
Right.
and 5. The hottest time of the day. They're asking us to, and so people always point to that, like, see if we had EV, if everyone had an EV, the whole thing would collapse. I'm like, well, I don't think you're really thinking this through, because we all charge it. If you're smart, you charge EV at night where electricity is like half the price.
Right.
And also, if I had an EV that had, vehicle to load, I could run my air conditioner off of my car instead of using the system.
Exactly.
Well,
Or I could reduce the load of the entire network.
Yeah, well, and this is exactly what PG&E's doing a test with right now with GM and with Ford, using the bidirectional charging capabilities, the vehicle-to-load capabilities. So right now with Ford, with their intelligent power backup system, that's all managed locally. So if the integration switch detects if your power goes out, and it flips the transfer switch over and starts drawing power from your truck until the power comes back. But what PG&E is doing, and also some other utilities are also doing similar tests, is remotely managing that. So that if your truck is plugged in during the day and has enough charge, then what they can do is, when they're seeing that load climbing up near the limits, they can send a signal out to people's homes if you've opted in, and basically take your house off the grid for an hour or 2 or 3, and just run it off the vehicle. And then as the load comes back down, then they can flip it back over and recharge your vehicle again. So this is the kind of thing we're going to see a lot more of going forward into the future, is that load balancing or load leveling using these vehicles. And one case where that's going to work really well is with school buses. Electric school buses are getting more and more popular, and for stuff like this, it's actually an ideal use case because of the way that the duty cycle for electric school buses. They go out in the morning, pick up the kids, take them to school. They go out in the afternoon, later in the afternoon, pick up the kids and take them home. And then during the middle of the day, they're usually just sitting there in the bus barn. And if they're electric, they can be plugged in and they can be used as this load balancing system for the grid.
And this isn't actually new. This is because we have the things called peakers. So as the grid gets taxed, usually these dirty peakers, they're just crap. There's old power stations, and they spin them up, and then those help balance the load. But they're just trash. They're just old power stations. They're not that great. And so what they started doing in California and Hawaii is and Australia is using essentially power walls. Tesla has. So they're using batteries in order to reduce the use of peakers. So as the more and more people need more electricity, these batteries can instantly add electricity to the grid. This is pretty much the same thing, except the batteries are everywhere. As opposed
they call it a virtual power plant.
Yeah.
Where you have a bunch of vehicles out there with batteries in them. Utilize those batteries for short periods, and you can cycle through. You don't necessarily need to use all the vehicles that are plugged in. You can run a vehicle for or run off a vehicle for an hour or two, and then shuttle around to different vehicles.
Yeah, no, it's I think there's sort of a misunderstanding of how EVs can actually contribute to the grid as opposed to being these giant sucks from their
Yeah.
and everyone's like, oh, they're going to destroy. I'm like, and it's kind of difficult to explain because if you don't have an EV, if you don't understand how the grid works, there's a lot of explaining to do in order to get that aha moment from people. And of course, there are people who just don't want to listen. They're just like, no, no,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah.
All right. So staying with the EVs, Buick this week announced that they are going to be offering buyouts to dealers to buy back their franchises if the dealers that don't want to make the investment to go electric. Because back in June, I think Buick announced that the brand's going to go all electric before the end of this decade, just like Cadillac. And when Cadillac announced this in 2020, they did the same thing for their dealers. They said, look, we know that there's a bunch of dealers that don't actually sell very many cars. And, we're going electric. And if you don't want to spend the $250,000, $300,000 that you've got to invest, to put in chargers and training for your technicians and spare parts inventory and things like that, that's fine. Let us know. We'll buy back your franchise, and you don't have to sell Cadillacs anymore. Now Buick's doing the same thing with Cadillac. Almost a third of their a little over 800 dealers that they had at the beginning of 2020 opted for the buyback. So I think they're down to somewhere around 550 dealers now. But it turns out that those dealers that are left accounted for about 90% of Cadillac sales anyway. So most of those dealers that took the buyouts were not selling very many cars. And I think we're going to see more brands going down this path over the next few years and buying out dealers that don't want to support EVs.
It doesn't sound like a bad idea either, even if it's just not a matter of like, well, we're not going to support EVs and don't want to invest. But if you just have underperforming dealerships, it's a great way to sort of cull the herd a little bit.
Yeah, get out of it.
Like
Things
if
aren't
you're
working
really,
so hot with my
yeah,
Cadillac dealership where I
Like,
sell 2 cars a year.
right. Like maybe it's not
Oh,
worth it to
no.
have a Cadillac dealership that looks like that one and then only sells 2 cars. Let's let them gracefully exit the market.
Yeah. Everybody wins.
Yep.
And, they kind of did some of that back in 2009 when they went through bankruptcy. They got rid of a bunch of dealers, but there they did it, they did it kind of arbitrarily, and they didn't pay out the dealers, or at least didn't pay out most of the dealers. Here, it's completely voluntary on the part of the dealers, and they're getting a pretty decent payout for their franchise. So it's, I think it's a good idea. It's a good approach for the manufacturers to take.
Yeah. It definitely looks better for the brand if the dealerships they have look vital and engaged
Mm-hmm.
and are, as opposed to like,
Cobwebs.
cobwebs
Yeah.
in the corner. Like you want to get rid of those. You don't want that to be the impression of how excited people are about your car.
You still have a brand new 2004 DTS sitting over there in the corner.
Yeah.
Mm.
Maybe that's not so great.
Yeah. Look, we'll buy out your franchise and we'll buy that DTS.
Yeah,
and
we'll
off
take
your
it
hands.
back.
Okay. Toyota has been one of the major automakers that's been, let's say, less enthusiastic about battery EVs. Although that's actually been shifting quite a bit over the past 12 months. They've a couple of times now adjusted where they expect their sales targets for BEVs to be by the end of the decade. And they're up to now targeting about 30% EV sales by 2030 globally, which is a lot better than 15% that it was a year ago.
Yeah.
But announced this week that they're converting 2 of their major engine plants in Japan over to building batteries. Their Shimoyama and Miyoshi engine plants are going to become battery plants over the next couple of years and start building batteries. And they had earlier this year, they announced plans for a battery plant in North Carolina, which at the time they announced it was about a $1.3 billion investment, and they were going to only build hybrid batteries there. They've now almost tripled that. They've added another $2.5 billion, and they are going to build batteries for EVs in addition to hybrids. So it's about what's that amount to? $3.8 billion investment now. Going into this North Carolina plant with about 2,000 employees working there building batteries.
It's I feel like a broken record. It's not a sprint. It's a marathon when it comes to EVs.
Mm-hmm.
Toyota's been very vocal about how much they don't want to build EVs in the past, and I think and then the sort of wheels falling off of their current EV is I think
Literally.
literally
Yeah, I
falling
know.
off
That's
their,
just like
their vehicle.
literally, truly, actually, they are falling off.
But I think they're coming around and they're realizing like, we really have to like invest in this. We want to make sure we don't get left behind. There's I don't know if they were waiting for what was going to happen in California, which there was an executive order 2 years ago for 2035, and now everyone's like, yeah, we're going to make it so it's EV only in 2035, which is I think they were just like, oh, it's the biggest market. Okay, we're looking at the actual business case for this, and we're like, fine, we'll do it. And
Yeah.
so I'm hoping there's some enthusiasm within Toyota that'll to make this happen. That's more than just business based. And a electric GR86 would be dope. That's all.
Yeah.
But then
Just
they have
throwing
that
that
little.
out there just in case.
They also have like one of the best looking EV concepts that might come to market was like their little FJ, the tiny FJ Cruiser EV
Yeah.
that they
The
showed off
mini
a
FJ.
few like a year. Yeah, bring that to
Last
market.
December.
You're just gonna
It was,
sell one. Yeah, you're gonna sell 1 billion of those things. Just throw a really nice EV powertrain in there, bring it to market, and then just watch the
make sure the
cash
wheels are
flow
bolted on
in.
tight.
Right.
Keep the
Little
bolt
details.
the
Make
wheels
the wheels
on.
stay on. It's small requests people have. Can the wheels
Ugh.
please stay on the vehicle? Okay, thanks, bye.
Yeah, yeah. That thing is that thing's gonna sell like gangbusters.
Yeah. Hopefully they will build that. Um, but it's not just EVs for Toyota, or not just battery EVs for Toyota, and other automakers like BMW. They're still big on fuel cells. Week before last, Toyota did an event here in town at the American Center for Mobility, and I had a chance to go for a ride in a fuel cell semi, a fuel cell Kenworth T680.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing how fast an electric semi will accelerate, especially when there's no trailer hooked up. They've been testing these they're on their second generation right now. They've been testing these for a few years in the port of Long Beach and the port of Los Angeles. And the latest generation version of it's got a range of 300 miles that's with a full load. So at 80 tons or 40 tons, sorry, 80,000 pounds, it can go 300 miles and recharge and refuel in between 10 and 15 minutes, which is pretty impressive. And for big vehicles like that, fuel cells are a great solution.
That's the great and I think that's how we're going to end up with fuel cells in regular cars is that we're going to build out a network for these large semis, across the interstates for them to move with fuel cells because fuel cells make perfect sense for a semi and for long haul trucking. And then from that, we'll get like little spider webs out where like, oh, let's pull a little fuel. I got a Mirai and I live in Ohio and I live near like a Rotten Robbie's. And now I can, or a Pilot or whatever. And you know what? There's another. You know what? I'm gonna put a fuel cell station. 5 miles, 15 miles in from the interstate. So I think that's how we're gonna get fuel cell vehicles. But it's gonna definitely be. It makes way more sense for semis and long haul trucking than for just passenger cars in this country. In Japan and North Korea, or Japan and in Korea, there's fuel cell. There's actual infrastructure. But here, I think it's going to be trucking before it's anything else.
Yeah, no, I agree. And with trucking, the business case for trucking, truckers make their revenue based on the poundage of freight that they can carry, and they're weight limited to 40 tons in most states, except for Michigan, unfortunately, where they run 80 tons and destroy our roads. But that's a whole other issue.
That makes so much sense.
Anyway, they're typically limited to 40 tons. And so you take the weight of the truck out of that, and that's how much payload you can carry. And with the fuel cell truck, it weighs roughly the same as a current diesel truck, even with the hydrogen tanks on it. Whereas a battery electric truck is typically going to be hauling about for long haul, somewhere between 10 and 15,000 pounds of batteries. That's 10 or 15,000 pounds of freight that you can't carry, that you can't generate revenue from. That's just dead weight that you're dragging everywhere around. And so, from a business case for long haul trucking, batteries are fine. Battery electric is fine for like day cabs, short haul, around town, or short regional runs. But for long haul transcontinental, the battery electric makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
But the other thing got with fuel cells is BMW announced this week that they are starting production of fuel cell stacks, and they partnered with Toyota on this. So they're using Toyota technology for their fuel cells. They're starting production in Munich of fuel cell stacks, and they're building a fleet of BMW iX5 hydrogen SUVs. So they're fuel cell X5s that they're going to be testing in Germany, starting, towards the end of the year. So that's another use case, larger SUVs and stuff like that, where the fuel cell stack, it can be better, it can be packaged, and you can get faster refueling time with it than you can with a battery, and still have zero emissions.
Yeah, again, it's just that infrastructure. That's all.
Yeah.
It's just that's what it comes down to. And I know for years Toyota and California kept crowing about how we're going to have 160 stations, we're going to have 150 stations, we're going to have 200 stations, we're going to have 20, 200, 120 stations, and then like one station would be built a year. And it's chicken and egg. And if you can charge your car really almost anywhere, because electricity is everywhere, versus I have to go to a special place to fuel my car, and the place is only available in Northern California, Southern California, and parts of New England. It gets hard to like make a business case and hard to sort of expand that infrastructure beyond piggybacking on like buses, and that's what that's.
Well, right now in the United States, there's a grand total of 54 hydrogen fueling stations.
In the whole country?
In the whole country, and I think
54.
all of those are in California.
They're all near my house. Everything's near my house.
Jeez.
There's one in Tahoe, or Carson City. There's a bunch of them around the San Francisco area. There's a few around Sacramento. There's one in the Central Valley. So if you're driving up from the LA area, and then there's a bunch around the Los Angeles area.
What's scary is
one
that
in Santa Barbara.
A lot of times they're like sort of they'll be out of commission. And at one point there was a hydrogen shortage. So people were like, so
what do we do now?
There's very few fueling stations, and sometimes they don't work. And then like 20% of the time they don't work is what I figured. When you look at the list, like 20% of them are just like, sorry, it doesn't work right now. And then sometimes they just run out of hydrogen.
Wait, I think I'm looking at some random map for the Massachusetts, it's a mass.gov thing, so something on this Massachusetts, and there's one outside of Boston, one outside of Hartford, one outside of New York, and one between New York and like Hartford, Connecticut. So there's nothing in New Hampshire apparently. So basically in the entire Northeast, we've got 4.
And they're probably for buses.
They're showing
I think those are all for private fleets. I don't even think.
I know they're implying that they're not in these little happy pictures. I'm like, one is behind a gate that looks, honest to God, like it's in like a prison. I feel like those aren't accessible to the public.
Well, the one that I typically would go to is in Emeryville, and there's a wall along the street because inside is a giant bus facility for the regional transit system. Okay. And there's wall, and then there's like sort of a carve out where the wall sort of dips in and then back out, and in that sort of dip in that little like a little parking structure, like when you go to register for your hotel when you pull in, it's just like that, except there's two hydrogen pumps.
That is
and
scary.
Because it's like on the outside of the bus thing, and you're just like, and that's the one I would just go to whenever I had them, because I knew the buses need hydrogen.
Yeah.
So that's the place that I can trust that'll be fine.
Where the buses will actually have them and they'll work.
Yeah, the buses need hydrogen, so they got to have the hydrogen.
All right. And then one last story. So we've all heard about issues with battery fires. And, that's not a good thing. But the reality is that the frequency of battery fires is still a tiny fraction of the frequency of gasoline engine fires.
Yes.
It's about it's less than 1/10 of the number given relative to the number of vehicles on the road. So this German insurance company, AXA, decided to do this crash demo, where they took a Tesla and they dragged it up a ramp, to have it flip over, and then it caught fire. And they tried to imply that, EVs are dangerous, and it catches fire when it crashes. Except that in this particular, if an accident like this one, where it had run up some kind of ramp and flipped over and then scraped along on its roof, had happened, it almost certainly would not have done any damage to the battery. And in fact, the car that they used for the demonstration didn't even have a battery in it. They took the battery out of the Tesla.
Oh gosh.
And they rigged it up to catch fire, to show it on fire.
Dun dun dun. This is
I
like
love
remember was it 2020 or 60 Minutes in the 80s or 90s with the GMC? They stuck SD rocket engines.
No, it was NBC. It was Dateline.
Oh my
Dateline.
gosh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They did that with the old Chevy pickups with the side saddle tanks.
Yep.
It's like, no, just don't do this.
They have this whole statement like, well, we're simulating things and we take precautions to keep people safe. There's like the whole statement here. It's like, but it was fake.
Yeah.
But it was fake.
But the whole thing was fake. If you wanted to be like, this could potentially happen, dramatization not real at the bottom, that's one thing. But this is what it looks like. No, only if you stick fireworks in your Tesla.
And the thing is, actually, if you watch this video, we'll include it in the show notes. You see this Tesla, flip over and it's scraping along on its roof, and actually, the roof structure held up.
That's what I'm thinking. If it's actually like skimmed along on the roof, like, because I didn't play it over the plate, but it's like the roof looks like, I'm like, wow, that's pretty sturdy. It's like still perfectly curved and everything.
Yeah, I mean, there are genuine safety issues with Teslas that have nothing to do with the battery.
Correct. I feel like this isn't one.
The structure. Yeah,
yep.
And they highlighted entirely the wrong thing and faked it. So
it's funny because Elon Musk and Tesla are like, we're building up our lawyers, and they were going to go after, I don't know, I guess journalists, or who knows what Elon's thinking most of the time. But I'm like, this is the thing you should be using all those lawyers for, because this is another company essentially saying, if you roll a Tesla over for reasons that make no sense, it will catch on fire. Womp,
oh my
womp.
gosh, that's ridiculous.
Someone's getting sued.
But if you do get into a crash in an EV and you see smoke, and it looks like the battery's going to catch on fire, get away from the vehicle as quickly as you can. I mean, well, anytime, actually, any vehicle.
Any vehicle.
If you smell smoke, get away from it.
Go away from vehicle.
Do not try to put it out yourself. Just get back away from it as quickly as you can.
Run away.
Yeah.
Just fire bad.
Run away. Call for help. Run away. Yep.
Did you know you can support Wheel Bearings directly? Head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia and you can become a patron today. Your contributions will help fund the platforms and tools we use to bring the podcast to you. And exclusives and improvements are already on the way thanks to your generosity. So if you want to be part of an automotive podcast like no other, head to patreon.com/wheelbearingsmedia. All right, let's answer a few listener questions. First up from Bryn Barenshausen. Why did Mazda not do the Miata as their first low-range EV? They would have sold a boatload versus the mistake that is the MX-30 EV. Lower range in a sport coupe convertible would make more sense than a compact crossover. And actually, when I was in LA last week, I actually saw an MX-30 in the wild. With
oh my God, someone
not
got
a manufacturer plate.
Didn't they? Didn't even make that many. Wasn't it a
500.
500 and some.
Did
Just
they
for
sell 500
mostly
and some? I think
they
it
have
was
to
just
for California.
Yeah, they were all sold in California, and they sell them in Europe as well. So I'm not sure. I haven't looked up the sales numbers for Europe, but yeah, they
Still
sold
good
about
for you,
520
whoever
in
chose to buy
California.
that. Why we don't know, but good for you.
Well, it's probably a Mazda employee.
Oh, that's true.
So he didn't buy it. He got it at a hefty
I mean, if you
discount.
got a really good deal, if Mazda's like, we're gonna, if it's like $99 a month, like the Fiat 500e,
I think
Yeah.
I
I
was
would
say if it was
totally,
just like $99.
I would totally get an MX-30 EV. I like the interior. It doesn't drive like a Mazda, which is unfortunate, but the interior is really nice and it has the
No,
cool
the
little.
interior, it is really cool, except it also has that cork. It has that cork.
Oh, it's just gonna.
I like the cork.
The cork
I like
is
the
really
cork,
cool
but it's gonna get
until-
filthy.
Exactly. Until you think about it, doesn't even have to be kids in your car. Like, I know how bad I am with my large iced coffee sitting here that I've dripped on myself half a dozen times sitting at my desk. What is going to happen to the center console in my car when I put this coffee in it? I'm going to drip it on, and then it's going to be in the cork, and this could be sticky, and there's going to be it's beautiful if you don't ever touch it. That's not going to happen.
I'm gonna look up MX-30 leases right now.
Robbie's about ready to get a new car.
I'm gonna get an MX-30.
But
What
as
a
to the
great-
question of why they didn't do the Miata, I
Not even
think
answering his
it
question.
mainly comes down to I think they probably felt that they couldn't maintain the Miata's driving dynamics.
That's what I would
right now
think.
with an EV. They couldn't squeeze in enough battery to be useful and still maintain the driving character that they wanted out of
And
the
that
Miata.
whole, and they have the whole,
Yeah.
the 50-50 weight distribution that
Yeah.
they're so picky. I'm like, I bet it would be like impossible to get that, to make that handle the way a Miata should handle. I bet it would compromise it too much.
Did they
Well,
use
I think you could
Toyota's
prob-
battery. Whose battery technology did they use for the MX-30? Was it Toyota? No.
No, I don't know. They never
Yeah.
said.
Okay.
They never
So-
said whose batteries.
By the way,
Yeah.
Robbie, you can't get the MX-30 because it's sold out.
Is it sold out?
That's
Yeah,
what it says
yeah.
when I go on their website.
They sold all the ones that they
out.
plan to bring here for 22 model year.
It is
Oh.
gonzo. You may
There,
not
there
have
may or
one.
may not be 23s. They haven't said yet.
Oh,
Is
zero
gone.
results found. Yeah, I can't find. Oh, wait. Let me expand
says
the
it's
range to
sold out.
250 miles.
But they, they could put the battery down the center tunnel of the Miata, and kind of have, sort of a T-shaped battery with a little bit in the front, and then maybe some in the back ahead of the rear
Yeah.
axle. But it would be tough to get enough range to be useful even in a Miata and still
Yeah.
keep the weight and the driving dynamics where they want.
I feel like it would be worse for them to, like, if they put it in, they could make it drive like a Miata, cool. But if it didn't drive like a Miata, oh, that would be
Yeah.
horrifying. That would be worse than building the MX-30, which people are so, for its
we're so
drawbacks
picky.
to mess up a Miata. Like, don't mess up
Ooh,
the Miata.
don't mess with
Don't
me.
do
I mean,
that. People will come after you.
Yeah, don't mess
Yeah.
with the Miata. It's they're not a big automaker. They're not Toyota. They're not Honda. It's going to be a little bit for them to get the battery technology to where it needs to be before they can shove
Yeah,
it in a Miata.
I agree.
But when they do, people, yeah, you're right. They're going to sell a bunch of these things.
All right. James Gardner asked, current state of supply chains and dealer inventories and availability from your insiders.
Craptastic.
Craptacular.
Yeah, I was just talking to one of my neighbors the other day, and it was a friend of ours, and they were getting a new CRV for their daughter, whose old Chevy Sonic died, and it took them 4 months to get it from the time they ordered it.
Wow.
So it depends a lot on which brand you're going for. Some brands are worse than others. Honda and Toyota are still having some really severe constraints. And I think back in June, Toyota was saying they had typically like 4 days supply.
Yeah, it
in
was
dealer
really
inventory.
ridiculously small. Yeah.
Honda's also still really bad. Ford and GM situation has gotten better. Stellantis is also a little better. But so it varies. But even for Ford and GM, they're still struggling with supplies and getting enough. Like GM, I think this week came out that their and it's not just things like chips. It's all kinds of different things.
Yeah.
They started shipping pickup trucks without the underhood liner, the noise liner that goes underneath the hood. And
Really?
they said when we get those in, we'll send you a note and you can come into the dealer and they'll install it for you.
I have
Wow.
such concerns with doing that. I mean, I totally get if you really want your vehicle, but like, I want the guy who puts the parts on my car, the original parts, to be a guy who does that all day, every day for a living. I don't want it
That's
to be
his
the
jam.
dealership. I want that to be his jam. Like, I can install a hood liner like a boss, not like, how's this go on? Like, I don't want that.
I don't want
Makes
someone
me
looking at
nervous.
YouTube putting this hood liner on my car.
And I'm not trying to knock the mechanics at the dealerships. They know what they're doing, but it's like the guys they put them together from the get-go. They do this all the time.
The headliner guy, like they're like, hey, we need to rotate. He's like, no, I'm good.
No, I just do headliners, dude. That's all I do.
I do,
all day, every day.
I do hood headliners to
Nothing
reduce
else.
noise.
And I do them awesomely.
I'm the king.
All right. Andrew Pappas asked, Jim Farley said that Ford wouldn't make an EV like the Lyric because that the vehicle has a traditional hood. Has he ever looked at his own Mach-E? And so this actually came from an interview that Farley did with Eileen, your co-host on Fast Women,
Eileen,
Nicole,
yes.
in Newsweek. And in that, he was talking about, the Lyric, maybe not looking quite enough out there, quite different enough, which, I think that, he's maybe going a little overboard. I think there's one legitimate complaint you could make about the Lyric in terms of the design, which is that given the length of the hood and the proportions of this thing, which do look fairly traditional, it's got quite a bit of space between the firewall or the bulkhead and the front end of the vehicle. Mm-hmm. And they opted not to put a front storage area in there, a front trunk.
Did they say why? Was there a reason that Cadillac gave?
The reason that Cadillac gave, which I don't entirely buy into, is that they were package protecting to allow for the all-wheel drive model, and they packaged all the electronics and the climate control stuff under the hood. And when we were out there in Park City in June to drive it, we actually opened the hood and popped off the plastic cover that's there.
There's a big empty space.
There's a big empty space. Even when you account for where the motor is going to be, which is down pretty low, there's easily enough space in there, to give you at least some storage area.
Yeah, that feels like a
Backpack.
ridiculous excuse because it's like, okay, so right now cars have engines and they have all-wheel drive. So you don't have to, it's not like you have to come up with, it's not like all-wheel drive is a new concept. Like currently there are cars with both those features.
How
So
do
if you
we
just take
get
the
those
engine
front
out,
wheels to turn?
we should have space where the engine was, even if the all-wheel drive components are still there. I know engineering things have to move around, but still, it shouldn't require, there's going to be space.
Well, the Lucid, is a perfect example. It does not have a particularly long hood. It's not, it's got a fairly compact front end, and it's got a motor in there driving the front wheels with, 400 plus horsepower, and it's got a front trunk big enough to hold a standard carry-on bag,
Right.
that will go in the overhead compartment.
I feel
So-
like the explanation from Cadillac is not adequate. I
and,
need more information, Cadillac.
To be fair,
Yes.
Cadillac's not the only one. BMW is pretty bad about this as well.
Doesn't the Subaru, what's the Subaru that I can't think of the name of because I'm drawing a sudden
Solterra?
blank. Doesn't that not have a frunk too?
Probably not. It's also the Toyota BZ.
Yeah.
I know,
something-
but I don't think it has a frunk.
probably.
Well, in the case of the Solterra and the BZ4X, they it does have a relatively short area, and they've got all the electronics stacked up on top of the front motor. So in the case of the Lyric is rear wheel drive or all wheel drive.
Yeah.
The Solterra and BZ4X are front wheel drive and all wheel drive. So they've always got that's always got a front motor, and all the electronics are stacked up on top of that. So there really isn't much room there to do it on those vehicles. But the
Okay.
Lyric
I'll
is
give them a
definitely big
pass.
enough.
The Lyric is
that
big,
they could do that
They
if
get along,
they
yeah.
chose to. But they've opted not to. And my understanding is the Celestiq is the same thing. They also did not have a front trunk in the Celestiq.
I mean, the frunk is one of the coolest things about getting an EV. I just like to open that's cool. I want that. I think I will not buy an EV that doesn't have a frunk. I don't care if it's only big enough for like a juice box and a sandwich. I want there to be a frunk in there.
But, to what Farley said, at least, in the case of both the Mach-E and the F-150, they've got a traditional hood, but they also have pretty good-sized front trunks.
Yeah.
Well, you can throw a whole other car inside the.
So the
Lightning.
F-150, it's like that's your carrot. That's a spot to put.
You can
your
almost
other
put an
car, like you
MX-30
said.
in there.
Just
Hey,
just
throw
put
it
a
in.
little MX-30 in when you get there. You can pop that out.
Charge it up, head on out.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, X Lite says third gen Chevy Colorado and the 2.7 with varying outputs. Are the engine internals exactly the same? The only difference being in software. Are tune upgrades offered? So there's three variants. There's two high output variants and a standard output variant. There are differences. They use the same block and head and everything, but there are some different hardware differences between the base 2.7 turbo and the high output versions. I think pistons are different, maybe the turbo and some other things, because there's quite a bit of difference. You will probably be able to get more power out of the base version with a software tune. Whether GM's planning on offering anything like that from the factory, I don't know. There'll probably be something available through
Third
Chevy's performance parts catalog or something like that. All right. And then last one is a pretty long one. Let me try and
I
skim
think you
through
have
this
to.
a little bit.
I'm still trying to skim through and find the question.
Yeah, so this is more comment than question. This is actually two emails combined from Lane Sykes. He's lived in California for 40 years, stays in touch with just about everything happening there. Been an avid high wind kiteboarder and windsurfer, as well as being a big boat sailor. I know weather and wind patterns. Announced again on the news today, Governor Newsom is seeking to extend the life of their nuclear power station to supplement the ever-growing demand. So this is, I forget the...
Diablo.
There's one... Which one?
Diablo.
Yeah, the Diablo nuclear power station. It's the last one operating in California. It's supposed to close in 2025. They want to extend it for a while to make sure they have enough generating capacity. Says during the months of September through mid-October, the normal wind patterns change. The normal cooling flow from the Bay to the Delta, the Sacramento Delta, ends. Temps rise in the Bay Area and Sacramento area. People turn on AC en masse. The grid suffers and rolling power shutdowns are numerous. When the wind quits, so do the windmills. The California Assembly mandated many years ago that PG&E divert money from grid and infrastructure updates and upgrades to create more solar and wind. The engineers advised the California government that there was insufficient electrical storage capacity. They said California only has 60% of the required storage. Governor Brown signed an executive decree in his last days, stopping the cutting of the trees for any reason. That complicates distribution and upgrades. PG&E says that it will take 80 years to complete required upgrades to stop forest fire threats. So, you live in California, Robbie.
Oh, don't even get me started. Okay, AT&T, PG&E has been essentially paying out money to its stockholders as opposed to upgrading its actual infrastructure. So instead of taking the due diligence and taking care of its infrastructure so it doesn't light fires and kill people, they had been just giving money to their stockholders. So they weren't working for, and even now it's difficult to really trust PG&E, but they weren't working for the good of their customers there, or the good of the grid, or the good of really anyone besides their stockholders and the people, the executives at PG&E. So it's there's no there's very little love for PG&E in California, especially in Northern California. And you see their sort of mismanagement and just inability to just do their jobs. Which is something that's been decades in the making, and it's been exacerbated with the drought. And yeah, the sort of like, well, PG&E said the PG&E is only saying and doing things, especially for the last few decades, in order to make more money, not to fix the grid itself. And so it's sort of disappointing, what has happened here in California, and the fact that we're having, we have to do the power outages. That's really PG&E saying, you know what? We don't trust our electric lines not to spark a fire. That's why.
Yeah.
That's it. There is grid issues, but that's not why they're turning the power off. They have peakers, they have battery storage. They're turning the power off because it's slightly windy, it's a hot day. They don't trust their power lines not to spark another fire.
That's not good. And
Yeah.
and they have caused multiple
Yeah.
very major fire. Like, wasn't the Paradise Fire caused by
Yes.
PG&E?
There was like
Yeah.
100-year-old like part that you could see. They showed the part, like they had a picture of it, and it hadn't been changed or looked at or fixed or anything, and you can see just how the power line had just wore through this chunk of metal
Ugh.
over the decades. And yeah, PG&E be like, oh, we don't have capacity. Like, no, you don't have the will to do the work that you're supposed to do.
Yeah. And this is probably the single biggest problem we have with going all electric is it's not so much the generating capacity, because the generating capacity exists, but it's the distribution and reliable distribution. And when you've got systems like that are threatening to cause fires that limit your ability to distribute the power, then that's going to be a serious problem. And if California, the Air Resources Board has passed the rule saying, from 2035 onwards, no more sales of pure internal combustion or hybrid vehicles. It's got to be at least plug-in hybrids, battery electrics, or fuel cells from that point forward. And if the state doesn't do something about making sure the utilities are up to snuff, it's going to be a real problem.
Yeah, it's definitely an issue. I mean, I think, everyone's for the let's make it better, cleaner, faster, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, if they're going to make these mandates, like you must stop selling this kind of thing by this date, well, then you darn well better have the infrastructure to support it, or you're creating a different whole problem for people, regardless of whether it's the greed of a company or whatever. It's like, if they're not going to change, if they're not going to, if they're not going to adapt, then it does cause a bit of a problem for all of us.
Yeah, and it's the ironic thing is that the thing that might help PG&E fix the issues are the automakers, because you have the Ford F-150 Lightning, you have vehicles from Hyundai, you have the ID Buzz coming. These all support vehicle to load, and at some point these vehicle to load vehicles will be able to be a distributed storage system within the grid. And so either you're helping your fellow man with your vehicle to load. Polestar will do the same thing. I just did an interview with the CEO.
So is GM.
Yeah, so everyone's working on these sort of vehicle to load vehicles. So they're essentially home batteries. They're essentially part of the grid, even if it's just in a micro level where it's at your house. But they could also be used, like you were saying earlier, with PG&E working with Ford and GM, where those vehicles can help pull some of the load off the grid and off their energy producing, either whether it's fossil or whether it's natural gas, or well, I guess natural gas is false, but whether it's wind or solar. So the cars that everyone's complaining about might actually be the thing that helps the grid.
But you do wonder, like, and I totally agree with you. Like, the cars can totally help with the situation once you get to a point where you can, you've got your cars now, your little battery in your driveway to charge your house. But do we have the infrastructure? Say everybody had the car in their driveway to charge their house. Do we have enough to, even if we stagger out, you do watering when there's a drought, like in New Hampshire, it's like odd, even watering, so you're not all watering on the same day so that it doesn't deplete our reservoirs. Even if you're doing a similar kind of thing with electric power coming in, do they really have enough to juggle everybody doing that? The entirety of everyone. Like, you wonder how well they'd be able to handle that. I get the, like, someday in the future, but like, if you push it too fast, it's not going to go smoothly.
Yeah,
the technology is actually. I mean, if I bought an F-150 and I got the Pro Connect station, I think it's called, or
Charge Station Pro.
Charge Station Pro, I can do it right now.
Right. Oh, no, I mean that. But
it's just electricity. It's just.
But if you and your like everybody in San Francisco did that right now, let's just put them all in an F-150 because that's a super practical vehicle for San Francisco. But like the idea of it, like everybody's in that right this second. You all have to charge that up. Now you're always using that. You can also charge your house with it. But like, do they have could the grid handle always having to charge that much stuff? Like, you're still at some point charging that F-150 to make it charge
night,
your house.
Yes, it absolutely can.
At night,
so you'd have to come up with like really strict though, like you'd have to almost. It feels like you'd almost have to do my odd even watering thing. Like, these people charge this day.
And
people,
the thing is,
it can get tricky.
they can do that. They can do they have managed charging systems.
Yeah.
That say, okay, at 10 p.m. you could start charging. And of course, they're not going to suddenly start charging a million EVs all at exactly 10 p.m. They're going to stagger them, by 10, 15 seconds apart.
Right.
At
But still, it's
various
a
times.
lot to stagger. It's
It's
still
also
an incredible
it's
amount
also
of
based
power.
on
But
the way it works. There's a financial aspect to it because
Yeah.
nothing works
Which
without
there
money.
isn't. Right.
No,
and
there
isn't,
is.
right?
It's
Well,
no, there is. It's half the charge. My electricity is half the cost while I'm charging my car at night between midnight and 9 a.m. than it is during the day.
But that's true. But see, but that's a financial incentive for you. But it's like, is that enough to make you go and spend the money on an F-150? And is it? I don't know. I still think that it's happening at a pace. I get what. Now I've lost his name in his giant email. What Lane is saying. Sorry, I had to scroll back up to the show notes. I get what Lane is saying. That there's like, this is all really cool and there is ways to do it. But man, it is a complex thing to try and pull off in a short period of time because there's so many variables in this, and because the power is already in short supply to get it to
Well,
where
that's
it
the
could
thing.
do
It's
all
not
that.
really in short supply. The power is the power out is
If
the
they
power
can't
is
get it to you, if they
well, they
can't
can't get
to
to it because they haven't fixed the infrastructure, which
So
is
still-
again
so-
a
right,
whole
so
other
not-
system. So
so
the
you're
idea.
patching the infrastructure with the cars.
right,
You're
but
patching
it's
the
like-
infrastructure with the
you're
cars.
But you can't. Like, I feel like that's a sketch way to try and do it. I feel like eventually it will work, but I'm like, it's still getting the power to as many people, whether you blame it on the actual source or the lines that get it to or whatever, getting that much power to that many people and then staggering it so that everybody has the power they want when they want it is a complicated, you can't deny that's going to be complicated as heck to try and figure that out. If you suddenly had everybody on the grid and you were relying on the batteries, cool, your car can power your house, but you still have to charge up that car at some point. So how do you charge Bob's car and Mike's car and Sam's car and Nicole's car and Robbie's car, all so that we have our cars when we want our cars and also have the electricity to run our house when we run our house? It's a complicated
But it's
puzzle.
not automatic. But you're saying it suddenly. It's not a sudden thing.
Well, but these are huge infrastructures. It's not but it is in the grand scheme of trying to upgrade an entire infrastructure.
Yeah.
There's
But
you're saying like stuff that hasn't been done in 100 years. It clearly doesn't, for whatever reason. Not negating the reasons, can be debated. But it is still a complicated thing that is not going to be easy. And look at how long it's just taking us to get chargers, for crying out loud. Just reliable chargers to plug in your car to charge on the road,
But so a peaker takes 5 years to build. A peaker, which is something that you say, okay, we have more demand than we're able to supply during peak hours, so we have to build a peaker. 5 years. A battery storage system is 18 months. It costs less. It's 18 months. So there's already the financial benefit of already moving away from the fossil fuels and using battery storage. So it's there. It's just the will of PG&E and the fact that we've allowed unregulated power companies to just do whatever they want, and the result is deaths.
Yeah, I don't think this is as easy a problem to solve by doing this.
Oh no, I don't think anybody's
It's
saying
not
it's
easy. It's
I
not
think
easy.
but it's
very,
doable.
It's doable. I agree that it's doable, but
It's
it's
gonna
like
take time.
It's redonkulously complex to actually pull this off. Yeah. I don't think it's easy at all. I don't think it's remotely easy. I think all the pieces are there, but like the pieces are floating in the entire universe, and we got to bring them all into one spot, and to get all those pieces to work together at the same time. People in the cars, infrastructure to support the cars, everybody to have all of that. That is a complicated thing. I know like if you individually have your F-150, totally easy, you get how to do it. But to make it so that it's not the small number of people that have those, and it's more complicated. I think it's complicated.
Yeah, no, it is.
I mean, everything.
Yeah.
Everything with the grid is complicated. It's just that there's actually financial incentives that make it actually less expensive. But it really, again, I'm just going to harp on PG&E and their inability to care about their customers.
Yeah. There is one other piece of Lane's email that I did want to address, which says, for the past week on the local news, I've listened to price increases on electric cars. Interesting that those increases came on the heels of the $7,000 rebate. If it were based on cost of materials, the all-electric cars would increase by a proportional amount. Back in the Carter days, present Carter days, he gave a $1,000 rebate to anyone who would put solar water heaters on their roof. The day after the rebates ended, the prices dropped to $1,000. So, first of all, the price increases are, in fact, proportional to the increases that we've seen over the past year in prices of the critical minerals on batteries. So this is things like lithium, nickel, and cobalt.
Rare earths.
Those prices did spike over the last year, and it
Yeah.
dramatically increased the cost of batteries, that translates into the price of these EVs. They've gone from being at least break even on a lot of these models to losing money, and so that's why they're increasing the prices. These price increases, and this is something that's been going on since early this year. The price increases were already in the planning stages long before anybody heard that they had reached a deal for the Inflation Reduction Act and these new rebates. Plus, the other thing is most of the vehicles that are getting these biggest price increases aren't going to be eligible for rebates anyway. With the price increase on the F-150 Lightning, the only Lightning that would actually potentially qualify for the rebate is the Standard Range Pro or the Standard Range XLT, and their price increases are much less because they have smaller batteries. All of the extended range versions are now over $80,000 base price, which means that they are disqualified anyway. And come next year, or beginning of 2024, Ford is planning on putting CATL lithium iron phosphate batteries in the standard range version of the F-150 and also in the standard range version of the Mach-E middle of next year, which, because those batteries are made in China, also disqualifies them. So they're raising the prices, but that's not because those vehicles are suddenly going to have a rebate on them. They won't. They do not qualify for these incentives. So,
which is a whole other issue.
Yeah, and the same thing goes for the Hummer EV. It's too expensive to qualify. So there actually are cost increases that have gone into feeding these price increases. That said, we will probably see automakers playing some games with pricing and with options. Like one of the things a couple of years ago when Canada instituted a price cap of $45,000 for an EV to qualify for their incentive programs. Tesla introduced a version of the Model 3 with a 93 model range that was priced at $44,999, $1 less than the price cap of $45,000. And all they did, it's got the same battery that's in every other Model 3, but they software locked the battery to limit the capacity so it would only go 93 miles on a charge, which, of course, nobody wants a Model 3 that's only going to go 93 miles. But once you buy it and you get your tax credit from the government, then you can pay for an over-the-air software update that unlocks the rest of the battery.
Which honestly is brilliant. Like, it's the best workaround ever. Like, you can't blame us. Like, you're going to put this arbitrary number on this. We can figure this out. Like, the consumer figures it out. Tesla figures it out. That's kind of like horrifyingly brilliant to do that.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting to see how, when sometime between now and the end of the year, the IRS is going to have to issue the actual rules of how the program's going to work, and to see if they put anything in there to try and prevent any of this sort of gamesmanship.
And you have to track it. Like, imagine you have to track it. Like, then if you did that, if you bought it under that, what they did in Canada like that, you'd buy it and then have to wait X number of months or not be able to, and then Tesla has to, or whoever would have to report back, hey, we gave an upgrade, so take their money back. Next year, put an extra X number of dollars on their taxes, because they shouldn't. That gets scary, complicated.
Yeah.
I'm not for complication and regulation.
No. Well, there's a lot of complication in the
Yeah.
whole clean vehicle credit program.
Yeah.
We're currently writing a whole report on it that we hope to publish in a couple of weeks.
Is it 8,000 pages long? I bet it's redonkulously long. Is it really? He
No,
just
it's not
rolled
that
his eyes like, oh God, you have no idea.
We're trying to pare it down and make it actually understandable.
Yeah.
Instead of trying to
It's
read
a
through
lot.
a 750-page bill.
I was going to say, anyone trying to make any bill in the U.S. government understand, go with God, Sam. I don't know how you're going to do that.
All right. Well, that's all we've got for this week. Thanks for listening, and we'll be back next time.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Recording stopped.